And make sure you speak into the microphone.
Oh, okay, thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another broadcast of Treble with Missy and Thor. And we got Missy here, and
Hi.
I'm Thor. And we have all kinds of stuff here on the desk. We got a laptop, and we have pieces of paper to pretend like we're doing something important. And but I'm just going to mention real quick that we are here at Apollo Piano. And if you haven't watched us before, this is a podcast that we do that involves music. And Apollo Piano is a really nice piano gallery that you can check out on Mangrove Avenue in Chico. And they have brand new pianos, and I think they might even have used pianos, maybe, I'm not sure. But they also have like if you feel like you can't afford a grand piano, which a lot of people can't, they do have financing options, and they have like the upright pianos that are a little bit more inexpensive than the really big ones, and they have digital pianos, and they have guitars, and we hang out here, so that's the other benefit.
Yes,
You might
that's one
see
of
me.
the wonderful benefits.
Yeah, exactly. And the owner of Vince Chambers. So be sure to check it out if you haven't already done it. If you buy a piano, they also include delivery, and they include like 3 free tunings and stuff like that. So it's a really good place to check out.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so we have Missy here, and we're just going to get into this because we have our first guest speaker in our podcast tonight.
Yes,
And
I'm very excited,
yeah,
Thor.
so do you want to maybe tell
Yes,
me about how do you know her?
yes. Well, I know April Taylor through her mom, Glenna Batson, and she was one of the founders of Butte County's uh, Music Teacher Association's Monster Concert. And that went on for many years. They performed at Harlem Adams Theater. Way back in the day, they performed at the Paradise Performing Arts Center, but then they got even bigger and they started performing at Laxon Auditorium here in Chico, California at Chico State University.
Really nice venue too.
Yeah. So, anyways, she is a wonderful music mentor, and I miss her dearly. She just passed away back in May, but I am here with her daughter today. I'm so excited. April is just a wonderful musician and person, and we're gonna get right into this story. She is a music therapist, and she studied and graduated from the University of the Pacific and completed her music therapy internship at San Antonio State Hospital. And she became a board certified music therapist 18 years ago and has worked both in hospitals and private practice. April currently does two jobs, seeing clients and as a music therapist and teaching students as voice, piano, and ukulele. April is a member of the American Music Therapy Association and is the director of the Orville Community Chorus and Band, which I was a part of um, some years ago. But, anyways, without further ado, April, you are on the line now. How are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yes, we are really excited to have you here. So, anyways, Thor, you're gonna jump
Oh,
in with
right.
that first question for her.
Yeah, I am. And I just want to say, so April, I've never met you before, but I'm meeting you for the first time. So I'm really excited. And Melissa, you need to have this, like, I'm sorry, on the front. There
Oh,
you go.
there
Yeah,
we
yeah.
go.
Because the
Okay.
sound goes on the front. Yeah. I just want to make sure she can be heard. So April, I'm really excited because I first learned what music therapy was maybe 10 years ago. But I'm old just like everybody else. So um, but I'm very curious because I know there are some people that know that music therapy is it can be a full-time profession. But some people don't necessarily know that. And there are some people that are just curious. So what I want to know is, like, how did you get into this line of work as your profession? Like, when did you start doing it? How'd you hear about it? So I just wondered if you could give us a little bit of a background.
Absolutely. So, as Missy said, I grew up in a musical family and I was playing the piano and singing solos by the time I was 5. And then I continued with my musical life. And by the time I graduated high school and was starting college, I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. And I figured that I'd like to do something with music, but I wasn't sure what. And so I also had been someone in the family that when there were sick people, I was the one they called. You know, your dad just had surgery, please come help him. Your brother fell down, please bandage his arm. Those kinds of things. That was always my job. So I was more interested in the human body and nursing kind of things as well. Well, I have a very unusual part of the story next. How I learned about it, I don't think probably anybody else in the world learned it the same way as I did. I ended up becoming married, and the gentleman was a wonderful man, but he had diabetes and ended up with a kidney pancreas transplant. And we were in and out of UC Davis Hospital, and he ended up passing away. And the doctor called me on the phone and said, "Hey, as a 20-year-old widow, what are you going to do?" And I'm like, well, I want to do something with my music, but the nurses think I should be a nurse. And he said, well, why don't you do music therapy? And I said, what? There is such a thing?
That's what I said too.
Wow.
Yeah.
I said, wow, I didn't even know it existed. And as soon as he said there was music therapy, I knew. I was like, that's it. That's exactly what I need to do. And so I went and I found University Pacific had a program, and I joined the program, and it's been fantastic. It was the perfect fit for me.
So, I mean, it sounds like it's like a combination of two things that you were really interested in. So, if you're interested in the medical profession and you happen to be a musician or have a musical background like singing, I would imagine that would be kind of like the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You said it.
Oh, I think the sound's coming from the other end of the phone,
Is it
Melissa.
right
So,
here? Like
yeah,
here?
wherever the sound's coming out, you need to
Yeah,
hold it.
it's fine. It's okay. They can hear it.
Are you
'Cause
sure?
this is the way the phone was when we tested it. Remember?
Okay, because I
It's
think
fine. Don't
because
worry.
I think
They
the
can
sound's
hear.
coming out of here. So,
It's okay. They're gonna. This is the case right here, so
okay.
it can't come back there. But we're good. We're
I
good.
hope so. Okay.
Yes, we're fine.
So, Missy, you have question number 2.
Yes, April. What are some of the conditions or ailments that your patients experience?
So, as a music therapist, we can pretty much work with anybody that has a problem. But in my line of work in the last 18 years, I've worked with many that I'm not going to list all of them, but I'll give you some idea. So, for instance, Down syndrome, ADHD, PTSD, suicidal ideation, bipolar, schizophrenia. And then some of the big ones I spent a lot of time with more clients is autism, dementia, depression, and anxiety. So I've spent a lot of time with different clients with these issues, and I have seen a lot of change and growth in their ability to live life because of music therapy.
Wow.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's just got to be really rewarding. So, um, I mean, I know this isn't part of the question, so I'm sorry. I
Yes,
don't
go
have
for
I
it.
like a follow-up question.
Yes, it's fine.
So, April, like, do you, in a course of a given day, I don't know if there's any such thing as a typical day as a music therapist, but like in the course of a given day, would you be able to like help treat a Down syndrome patient and then go and treat another patient with a completely different ailment and see like 3 or 4 different patients, or how many
Oh,
patients?
yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, in San Antonio, when I was working there, I would see, and we would drive because we would go to their homes. I was a subcontractor at that point. So I would drive to different homes and I'd see about 6 different clients in their hour sessions. So if you're driving 45 minutes in between, you can figure out the math.
Yeah,
how
definitely.
long that takes. But when you're in a hospital setting, obviously, then you have also that same idea. You can either be in a medical hospital where you're going and you're working on the oncology unit, you're working with cancer patients, sometimes you're working with neonatal, you're on the neonatal unit, and you can totally work your 8-hour day and work with all kinds of patients throughout the day. It just really depends on where you're located. Are you located at a school and you're doing learning disabilities and you're working with an IEP? Well, in
Yeah.
that case, then you're working with the children and their needs. Maybe it's dyslexia, maybe it's whatever. So it just depends on where you're stationed and working as a music therapist.
Wow. That sounds pretty cool.
Yes, it is.
Is it? Oh, I'm doing 3, right?
Yes.
So we're trying to stick to the schedule here. Okay, I'm gonna ask another question, and then I'm gonna have Melissa ask. So, we're wondering, like, what are some examples of how music actually helps these patients? Like, using, of course, layman's terminology. I know not everybody watching is a doctor, obviously, but how does music actually help um, patients with these different ailments?
So I'm really excited to talk about this because since I graduated over 20 years ago now, they have had such amazing breakthroughs in the neuroscience and how that applies to music and why it works for our clients. Because in the past, empirical evidence is what worked, right? We would
Mhm.
work with a child with autism and we would see their behavior got better, their speech got better, they were able to interact with people where before they couldn't let anybody touch them. But now science is starting to say, hey, this is why. So with
Mhm.
autism in particular, let's start there. One of the things they're learning is that the neural pathways in the brain respond to music on both sides of the brain, where speaking is only one side. So you might say to a person or a patient with autism, please pick up that book, and they'll just stare at you because they don't understand what you're saying. But if you sing to them, please pick up that book in song, they'll do it because they understood and the brain connected.
Wow.
Wow.
I have, yeah,
That's
I have a
neat.
really cool story about a little 6-year-old that I was working with, and she, once again, was your typical person with autism where they cannot accept touch. They can't be touched. They don't want hugs. They don't want to
Mhm.
be around people. They don't want anyone in their space because their auditory system is on overdrive and they
Yes.
can't handle the stimulation. And so one of the things we did was keyboard therapy where she's playing on the keyboard and then I come over and I put my finger on the keyboard to play and she slaps my fingers off, right? Slap my hand off because she doesn't want to share her space. She doesn't want me there. But because it was metered and measured and done in such a therapeutic way, in 6 months, not only was she sharing the keyboard with me, but we were taking turns and it had transferred into her home life and she was learning to share and interact with her siblings.
Wow.
Wow,
So
that is
so it even, like,
wonderful.
improves relationships with your family members. That's pretty
Absolutely.
wow, that's pretty
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, I think there was some comment well, yeah, I was gonna actually make a comment on the singing because,
Yes.
April, you were saying that, some, patients or clients I don't know if you call them patients or clients, but
It's based on if they're in a hospital or if they're private practice. So if
oh,
you're
I
in a
see.
hospital, they're a
Uh,
patient. And
okay.
if you're seeing them in private practice, they're a client.
Oh, I see.
Wow.
Interesting. So the patient and or client, will sometimes like you were saying, if you sing to them, they'll actually follow instructions versus if you just say it, they won't even respond. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Yeah. So it's almost like the music is like an additional language that they can actually understand. It actually communicates something to that it wouldn't otherwise.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that right?
And I
Yeah.
can give you a little bit more on that. They've done a recent study in 2019 with an fMRI. I know that's a fancy little word. It's not your regular MRI. It's a special MRI that scans metabolic processes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And when they did this, they had done several music therapy sessions with a group of clients with autism. And what they discovered is that they did the scans before and afterwards, the scans showed that the brain had increased in their activity in the appropriate areas connected to the sensory and their behavior. So those kids that showed better behavior and better communication skills also showed better brain activity.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
That's really cool. So I think that just runs into our next question.
Yeah,
What the
yeah.
most rewarding part of your job is? I think we've kind of already covered that, but do you want to add to any of that, April?
Yeah, I love seeing how my patients are helped. I love helping people. Just overall, I love helping people. And it's so neat to see your clients progress and to know that they've reached a new level of health.
Wow,
Mhm.
yeah, that's wonderful. I'm
Yeah.
like I'm so excited because I think Thor and I have experienced some of this on some level with our piano students.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
I've had a couple students with autism, and
Mhm.
to see their growth and
Yeah.
them just going leaps and bounds with
Mhm.
music because they're just I think when I'm working with them, they're so centered and they're like in their element, so to speak, and they're just able to just be themselves, express themselves through their music. And I've seen some really positive a positive impact in my students who are that come to me with autism and you know take lessons. It's really really encouraging
Yeah,
and
it
rewarding.
really is,
Yeah.
and I think that so we're music teachers, so I think if you teach music long enough, you're going to get students that come with certain issues, even if it's just stress, or they're just or they have anxiety. So there are students that I have right now that might have some of those issues, and you got things going on with COVID right now, and you got things like in 2018 we had the campfire up in Paradise, and I have students from Paradise that were what do you call them, escapees who are suffering from things like PTSD and anxiety because they had to go through that. And I'm even seeing some of the effects that the music has on them just as a teacher. I'm not a music therapist, but I one thing I noticed is the music that they play themselves when they take lessons with me, they feel more relaxed. So I don't have like a clinical explanation for this, but I know, April, you could do a much better job of it. But there's just certain things that I observe that it reduces anxiety and it reduces stress and helps them in a variety of ways that I've just seen in my own experience. So
Yes, and I've heard a very positive feedback from parents too.
mm,
I had a set of twins, and their mom said that every time they came home from school, they went straight to the piano and
yeah.
played, and it really helped relax them and
Hmm.
get them decompressed. But anyways, I'm ready to get back into this. So what number are we on? We're number 5.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that
so I
my
think
turn?
that's your turn.
Do you want to
Yes.
take that one? I've
Here
been
we
talking
go.
a lot.
Oh yeah, I can take
You
that.
want to take it? Okay.
Okay, April, here's another one. Would you recommend this line of work to somebody that might be pursuing this profession? And why or why not?
So, yes, if you are a musician and you're interested in medicine, this is a really good fit for you. You need to care about people, and you need to be interested in the human body and the human psyche, and you need to love music. And if you have all three of those things, then you'd be a great music therapist. Because it really requires the love of people and the love of working with people that have disabilities in order to make this happen.
Yeah. And then there was something I was going to add to that, but I keep drawing a blank for some reason. Oh yeah, April, is there a high demand for this kind of work, do you think, or?
Yes, actually, there is. In our area, it's been slow growing, just probably because we're not as densely populated. Also, the profession's been around 70 years this year. We
Wow.
started in after World War II. It started with the returning vets, and we started using music therapy with the PTSD from them. And then from that point on, in 1950, an actual music therapy program was started. And that's when they say the actual profession was born. Now, of course, you can look back in all kinds of places, as you mentioned last week, Thor, and music therapy has been around for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
But as a profession, as a licensed and certified, board certified profession, it's been around 70 years, and the purpose behind it is to use the clinically trained person, music therapist trained, and then use the music in a way that will create help and not harm. Because we all know music is very powerful, and it can be used in a way that is actually harming to a person.
Yeah.
So it's important to use it in a way that's helpful.
Yeah,
That's
use it
true.
correctly, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Interesting. I didn't really think about that much.
Wow.
About music potentially being harmful.
Yes, I
That's
know.
that's interesting.
Yes, we won't.
I hope I'm not doing it wrong.
No, well, the thing is, the difference is you and Melissa are using music as a music in a music is therapeutic, right? So you're not a music therapist, and you're not saying you're doing it as therapy.
Right.
So that's good. As teachers, you are using music because that's just life. We use
Yeah.
it at our own birthday parties. We use it at at any important event. There's music.
Yeah.
So there's a music connection that happens because of life.
Mhm.
But then when you have the therapeutic portion, for instance, on the American Music Therapy website, it talks about the definition of what music therapy is versus just, say, music being played by somebody else at a rest home. Let's say someone goes in and just plays piano for somebody at the rest home.
Yes.
Well, the difference is music therapy means the clinical and evidence-based use of music interventions to accomplish the goals within the therapeutic relationship.
Oh, I
So,
see.
yes, your students are seeing relaxation and benefits from just plain playing the music.
Yeah, yeah.
As a music therapist, the step that I take is different because I'm both, right? I'm a teacher, I teach piano, and then I'm also a therapist. So I have as a therapist, the step I take that's different is I assess them. We do an assessment, and I take notes. And if you've been in a clinical setting at all, you know doctors write everything down, nurses write everything down,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
physical therapists write everything down. So we write down our notes and I assess them, and we decide what do they need and what do they want to work on. Maybe a child, maybe if someone with anxiety needs to learn how to have deep breathing, and so you have measurable goals. You create measurable goals, how to
Yeah.
reduce the anxiety and which stages to follow, and then you actually set up the music to create and maintain those goals and hit those goals so that you can say, see, we have clinically helped this person be better.
Mhm. Yeah, that's I mean, I just imagine that would be really rewarding. I mean, for me, I've never gone into the medical profession, but I imagine the playing music part and getting paid to do that, I think would be really just really nice and rewarding for me if I were to pursue that. Um,
Absolutely. And in the article, there's a lot of research being done right now.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in your response to your students, you're watching them reduce their anxiety and depression. You're right. It said that music, especially music therapy sessions, will help reduce anxiety and improve functioning and reduce depressive symptoms and help. The other thing it'll do if it's in a music therapy setting is help maintain involvement in their job activities and relationships.
mhm. Yeah.
So those are the research that has been being done, and now we have evidence-based
Mhm.
Wow.
research to say, hey, this is what we can do with music and how it works. And of course, the difference, like I said, has to do with the clinical base in the therapy versus what you're seeing as a teacher, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay. We have
Wow.
one more? Is that right?
Well, I just
Did she already answer that?
I pretty much, yeah, it was just basically who would benefit from music therapy, but I
Uh.
think we pretty much have covered
Well, I
that.
would think on some level everybody, but the fascinating part of me is that is April, you're working with people that have diagnosable clinical problems, and that there's a science behind the way that the music helps to heal them or helps treat them. So that's what really kind of resonates with me is that this isn't just fluff. This is actually these are like empirical studies that they've done since you said since the 50s, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
70 years.
I didn't even
Wow.
realize that music therapy had been around that long. I thought it was like something they came up with recently or like in the 80s or something, you know.
Right.
So
Well,
this
and like I
yeah.
said, on our side of the United States, it slowly come this way. It was bigger in Europe early
Mhm.
on, and
Mhm.
it was very big on the East Coast. But even when I got my degree, I was the only music therapist in the area for a long time.
Wow.
And now, in the last, I want to say 5, 6, 7 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Now there's three. Now there's 3 music therapists in Butte County.
Oh wow, okay.
Wow.
Oh,
So that's a big deal.
so
Yes.
so in all of Butte County there's only 3?
That's to my
Wow.
knowledge. I
Interesting.
could double check the certification board registry, but as far as I know of 2 others. So there's 3 of us.
That's what I said last week, that they're very hard to come by.
Yeah.
So
Well, it sounds like if you have that as a job, you might be, maybe I'm wrong, but you might be sort of a big fish in a little pond. Is that kind of what it's like?
Yes. Well, and the biggest problem right at the moment is called funding.
Oh, okay.
Because you can get specialized funding for grants sometimes,
Mhm.
but at right this moment, a lot of insurances will not pay for music therapy. They will pay for occupational therapy, they will pay for physical therapy, they will pay, sometimes they'll even pay for art therapy, but they won't pay for music therapy. And so that's starting to change,
Mhm.
and that does help. A lot of times people can use their disability funds to pay for the sessions, or they pay out of pocket. But when you can be reimbursed, which you can, like I said, you can set that up depending on the situation. Sometimes you can work with a group such as a hospital, and they will pay for their patients to have music therapy. And
Mm-hmm.
that way it becomes a service from the hospital to the patients.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
So it just, and especially in the schools, it actually is paid for there as well, because they do have legislation to pay for an IEP for music therapists to help with that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's been
good
the
to know.
biggest roadblock, I would say, is being paid.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I
But
imagine.
over
Yeah.
beyond that, that's other than that, whenever people hear about music therapy and they see it in action, they want it. It's
Mm.
just a matter of how are we going to get it paid for.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, hopefully, in the future, it'll become more and more of a mainstream thing where maybe it's more inclusive and more of a normal part of the medical profession. I mean,
It has been starting to be that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the more evidence that we have, like I said, in the last 20 years, it's come so far already. And now because of that, because like I found one of my journals articles wasn't just in the American Music Therapy Journal, it was in the Psychology Today.
Oh,
And they said, look at what music therapy can do with children with autism.
yeah.
And we're like,
Yeah.
okay, so we're getting noticed. They realize that
Good.
it's working.
Good. So you have that empirical data, and hopefully that'll kind of help speed things along. So,
Absolutely.
so Melissa, we're at 7:55. Do you want to
Okay.
give her a very sincere thank you? And
Yes, absolutely. Well, April, thank you so much for coming on to our show today. We really appreciate your
Yeah,
time,
thank you.
and thank you for what you're doing out there and helping people um, through the music therapy. That is such a wonderful thing that you're doing.
Well, it's just really fascinating to me too, because I've
Yes.
wanted to kind of learn. I've learned a little bit about it because I said last time that I had a friend down in Tulare County that did this, but I didn't learn as much about that as I did tonight. So, April, thanks for kind of sharing and giving people insight. I know people have been curious about it, and
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Well, you are very welcome, and I appreciate the opportunity to share what I love. And I really thank you for this. So thank you.
yeah,
Yes.
you're welcome.
Okay. Well, you have a great evening, April. Take care. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, that was
Yes.
great. So I hope you guys got some really good insight. That was really interesting to me. I don't
That
know.
was
Did you
wonderful.
already know all this stuff? Because
Oh my gosh.
you've known her for a while, right? Or
Yeah, but
yeah.
I mean, I knew her mom,
Okay.
and yeah, I learned a lot.
Yeah, me too.
I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. This is really good information and good information for everybody out there. Music is good for as a whole,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
therapy or for taking lessons.
Hmm.
Um, like I said, I have found positive results with my students who have
Yeah. Yeah.
taken lessons,
Yeah.
and they're doing better in school, they're doing better at home.
Hmm.
And it's just something too. Some students do better one on one, especially when you're having those private lessons.
Hmm.
Sometimes those could be very beneficial.
Well, it could be like how would you call it? Like a self-healing method, because if you're um, by yourself and you can play the piano and you feel better afterwards, that's a really good thing. And in fact, I actually, this was a few years ago, and we're almost done here, I know, but
Yes.
there are times when people have anxiety, and I went to get treated for this one time, and the doctor just said, "Oh, just take these pills," right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what a lot of doctors do. They just prescribe something you pick up at the pharmacy, and they were anxiety pills because I was just whatever stressed out, because
Mm-hmm.
people get stressed out, right?
Yes.
And so I went home, and I was like, well, I'll take these pills later, but first I'm going to play the piano for like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I played the piano for like an hour and then went out for a walk, and I just felt fine. Like I never ended up taking the pill. So this is one of those things where this is what they call anecdotal evidence. Like, this is just talking about myself, but
Yes.
it's just one example that you can kind of think about in terms of how therapeutic music can be. So just by playing the piano for an hour, really just kind of made the anxiety go away. So I know, like what April was saying, there's a lot of other conditions out there, because she
Mm-hmm.
talked about people with autism, Down syndrome. I know there's things like with Parkinson's and other ailments that people have had where they benefited from music therapy. So it's
Yes.
not just anxiety; it's like other like diagnosable things, conditions, that if you have them, you can actually use a music therapist and help treat those conditions. So really
Exactly.
interesting stuff.
Yeah. So, our guest speaker tonight was April Taylor from Oroville, California, and I'm Missy, and
I'm
this is
Thor.
Thor. Hello.
I got to do the Thor wave.
And we're from Chico,
Yeah,
California, and we're here live from Apollo Piano in Chico. So, you want to sign off, Thor?
I do, but I want to ask you real quick. What are we doing next
Yes.
week?
What are we doing next
Have
week?
you thought of anything?
What are we gonna do next week?
I'm putting you on the spot again.
Oh, you are. Oh my
This
goodness.
is my favorite thing
What
to
do you
do.
think we should do?
I have an
Throwing it back
idea,
on you. Yeah. Well, take it
but I
away.
don't want to. If you have other ideas too, I was kind of wondering if you wanted to talk about different music genres and how that
Oh
plays
yeah,
out.
you know what? I was kind of
Were you
thinking
thinking
the
the same
same thing.
thing?
That is so weird. I was thinking about like the musical, different musical eras.
Oh, the eras,
Yeah.
eras and or genres. You
Yeah,
want to
we
do?
can do
We can do
both.
both. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would
let's
really
do
like to do
that.
that.
The
Okay.
Baroque, the
Yeah,
classical, yeah.
and the romantic,
Romantic
the
and the
romantic. Yeah.
contemporary.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is gonna be
So,
fun.
so on a moment's notice, we decided that next week, if you're watching, so next week we're going to do a podcast about different musical styles and genres and the different musical eras throughout history and
Yes.
how that plays into today's modern world. So we just decided this
Yes,
now.
we just
So
decided that. Isn't that wonderful?
yeah. So make sure and tune in, and I hope you really enjoyed today, and I hope you could hear okay, and that was just really fascinating to me.
Yes.
So I'm really
Yeah, it was some very good information.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think almost anybody and everybody would benefit from listening to
Mm.
this podcast. So if you like it, share it,
Yes.
subscribe,
Mhm.
and we'll see you next Thursday at
Thursday, my day.
7:30.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking about music genres and
Eras.
musical eras.
Eras.
He almost forgot about what we're going to talk about next week.
I need more coffee for that.
Yes, he does. So long.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
We'll
thank
see you next week,
and have a great evening.
thanks for watching. All right. Oh, you want to do it this time?
Oh, I'll do it this time. My turn now.
There you go.